welcome IFBB Pro, Figure and Women's Physique Pro, Eleni Polites.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Super excited to have you on the podcast. This has been rescheduled 2 times, I think. So we're finally here.
We made it.
And I really just appreciate you coming on because you are such a light in your world of bodybuilding and the people that come across you. No one ever has anything bad to say about you, and you're just such a positive person. I think I first met you at the Northwest when you won the overall,
Yeah.
right? In 2023. And then you went on and got your pro card a couple weeks later, right?
Yeah. It was a crazy 5 weeks. That was wild.
Yeah. Well, you were just one of those people that shows up kind of out of nowhere to that show, and you just fucking won it all, and then you did the damn thing over again, and you switched to women's physique too.
Yeah, I mean, I moved to Washington January 2023. I wanted to do nationals that year, and I kind of had it in the back of my head. You know, I was going through a divorce, literally picked up my life and moved across the country. So I wasn't really sure if I wanted to compete this year, or 2023. I just gotten in a new relationship, and anyone who competes and has significant others knows that it's a lot. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. If I'm going to do it, I just made this huge life change. Things are going in the right direction. I had brought my coach, Justin Jacoby, on to work with me in March, and was like, if you think this is realistic, and he's like, oh, without a doubt. So it was kind of fun coming into NPC Washington and no one knowing who I was, and just kind of showing up and everyone just looking at me, and people size each other up, and it wasn't even what I love about the NPC out here is it wasn't a cutthroat, I'm sizing you up. It's wow, you look amazing, and everyone is so collaborative and supportive, and I made so many friends out here through the experience, and it's just been really cool being a part of the NPC Washington out here.
Yeah, I agree. I've been obviously a part of the NPC in Washington and Idaho for a long time, working at shows and doing that, and it's it is a very supportive environment, and that's where I started competing, and I have plenty of clients who compete in it now too, and I know a lot of the coaches out there. So tell me kind of what made you believe Jacoby when he said oh yeah, without a doubt.
Well,
when he said yeah, let's go.
I think when we're a higher level amateur athlete and we're trying to go for our pro card, when we're either onboarding a coach or we're looking for a new coach, we are we're interviewing the coach, but the coach is also interviewing us. And I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go, and I looked back, and Justin's been a close friend of mine, and I think the biggest thing that always has stood out for me with him is when I told him about this traumatic situation, and I'm moving across the country, I'm getting this divorce, everything was very scary and new for me. Instead of the normal person says, oh, I'm so sorry, or another side is good for you, and he asked me if I was happy. And so that's one reason I wanted to work with him, because I knew he cared about me, and two, he constantly would sit there and go, when are you just going to let me coach you? I can do this. We can do this together. And when a coach does that, you're yeah, I can do anything. Yeah. Justin could tell me dude, you can totally punch out a brick wall, and I'd be fuck yeah, I can. Let's do it. So it's just that energy. I'm sorry?
How did you guys become friends before you started coaching together?
Oh, Instagram. I love the bodybuilding community on Instagram. My girlfriend and I joke whenever we get married that her side will be all of her friends and family here in Washington, and my side's going to be all my Instagram friends from bodybuilding. But I mean, it is, and I've always tried to be that person, and I think it's easier virtually when you can, you're on your phone, you can type it. I've always wanted to be that person that I want someone's life to be better by knowing me. And I want to help. And obviously I can't physically be there for everybody, but just being there, DMs, whatever, and hey, you can do this. Having someone support you through prep has always been my biggest thing that I want to give to people. So yeah. I think that's why I've developed the relationships I've had. And obviously Justin being an important one for me, now being my coach.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Len. That's such a cool part about you. I've experienced that myself firsthand. I think one time I told you that my shoulder, something was bothering my shoulder, and then you sent me like 4 videos of different like mobility drills and things that I could do to help my shoulder. And I was like, oh fuck, she just like sent me that. I barely know her. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the person I am. Like if I can, my natural, I think everyone has a degree of like natural ability to understand things. And mine has always been the way the human body moves and works. And if I can help people that way, like, absolutely, I'm going to help. I don't even care if I don't like you or we're not friends. Like, I'm going to literally help you because you're reaching out or you're saying, hey, my shoulder hurts. Like, there are so many of us that, you know, obviously posing is important, but like you can see the soft tissue restriction and it's almost a curse because I'll be sitting in the audience and go, you're tight there, you're tight there, tight there, tight there. And you can get so much more out of your posing if you just are looser, you loosen the muscle up.
Yeah. So talk about that. Like, what is it that you do for work and how do you implement that into like how you support people? Just
For sure. So I'm an occupational therapist. A lot of people refer to me as like a physical therapist. It's similar but different. So occupation defined as like any sort of meaningful activity. So I think that's why OT can fall within a lot of different healthcare areas. So I do physical rehabilitation in hand therapy. So shoulder, I treat shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand. We do complex traumas, post-operative, operative conditions. I work for this great hand surgeon, Dr. Trumbull. It's his own practice. So it's really, really cool. I'm kind of the shoulder and elbow gal there, which is awesome because that falls right in line with all of my bodybuilding stuff. So I'm doing a lot of, assessment, looking at range of motion and strength, postural assessment, looking at, where their shoulders are laying and what muscles are weak, what muscles are tight, making sure I'm doing the manual work to loosen those muscles up, and then the strengthening stuff to kind of get everything tight again, which is kind of pushed over into like this lucrative side hustle that I've been doing, which is awesome. With bodybuilding, like I was talking about posing, like I'll look at people's posing things online and I'm like, damn, like you are super tight. Like I could totally loosen you up, like easy peasy. I'm certified to do dry needling, which is inserting small, almost like monofilament needles into the muscle, which us as bodybuilders is super important because our muscles are dense. Like even aggressive soft tissue massage is not going to get into where those trigger points are to release them. So what I've been doing is I've been having people send me, hey, let me see your posing and what hurts. Does it hurt at rest? Does it hurt with activity? What activities hurt? What type of pain is it? And then from there I go, okay, let's devise this treatment plan, 2 or 3 sessions, even probably after the first session, I'll have you like 80% where you need to be. And I think in this world nowadays where we want everything like right now, it's a hot commodity. And, dry needling is it's very controversial, especially in the state of Washington. For OT to dry needle, they just approved physical therapy to dry needle. But it's just so effective. Like it's so good for us as bodybuilders and powerlifters and anyone with dense muscles because it gets blood flow into the muscle. And like I talked about those trigger points, it gets right where we have those trigger points and it breaks them up. So then when I'm doing the soft tissue work, it's so much easier.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime I've had a client say they've gotten dry needling or if I've told them to go find someone to get dry needling done with, it's always been like the thing that solves, if not solves the problem immediately, or it's just like the thing that facilitates a faster solution.
Completely.
Every single time.
Completely.
Because, yeah, you're right. It is dense and there is a lot of like just tension and stuff that we hold as bodybuilders. And especially if someone's been like training like wrong for a long time, or they've been training with like some sort of impingement and just training through it, then getting that, like they really need that broken up because it's like there's usually just like a lot of scar tissue or just knots, tension, whatever it is that needs to be broken up.
For sure. Even like I had at nationals, I had Jeff Hart, who's based out in Florida. I couldn't get my quads to split on my left leg, and I know it's a hip issue. But it's like, hey, I need to figure out how to get these to fire. And like 2 hours before I got my tan on, I went into Jeff's room and he threw needles in my quads, and like the pre and post picture are like night and day difference. Like, obviously if you have a layer of fat, you're not going to see your quads split. And we knew that I was pretty peeled, so it made no sense that I wasn't splitting. So I mean, like, again, right after, like, he dropped needles in me, we let him sit there for a few minutes, pulled them out, and like, bam, they were firing. So I've done a ton of tune-ups. The coaches tell you, hey, once you're, a couple days out, stop the body work. You don't want to accumulate water. That's another great thing about the dry needling is it helps with lymphatic drainage. Like, so good. Every single person that's, 2 weeks out or like a week out peak week, they text me like the night after me needling them, and they've lost like 4 pounds. Like,
That's
it's like
amazing.
it's the secret sauce. Like, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So right now that kind of thing is a side hustle and you work for a great hand surgeon, but like what do you see for yourself at like in the future, if anything, in terms of like, is that side hustle something that you plan on bringing more into like a full-time thing? What is
Yeah.
your like ideal world look like with that?
So my ideal world, I would like to be dry needling in the state of Washington as an OT. So they need to approve dry needling for OT in this state. But essentially, I would truly love to just own my own practice. I've been trying to get something in the works with my hand surgeon where we kind of facilitate this. I am continuing to kind of grow this side hustle, and it's almost becoming like, it's cool. It's like becoming overwhelming. Like, I know you can kind of relate with your coaching stuff. Like,
Yeah.
when you're at that point, you're like, oh my God, like, I'm like functioning and doing this.
Yeah.
I think a side of me holds on to the security and the comfort of working for someone else. And I think that's been a theme of my life. Again, even, making the choice to move out here from Chicago, and kind of leave that life. Like, I love routine and I love normalcy. So for me, taking that leap of faith is going to be super hard, but I think down the road, that's absolutely the plan, is to make this, I want to see the pre-op, post-op complex trauma patients still from surgeons. But then also have the side where I can have, my power lifters, my bodybuilding clients come in and I can do work on them.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, anyone who has ever thought about being an entrepreneur, like we all have that thought before it makes like it
For
actually
sure.
happens, is you like the idea and you're interested in it, but you haven't committed yet. And that commitment only comes from practice and like increased interest. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you and I talked like several months ago before
Yeah.
you were doing this and before you were working for this guy. Um, and you were talking about like wanting to grow coaching more and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And like obviously it being more of a side hustle. And now to hear like the side hustle you've started with like the dry needling and doing bodybuilders has increased so much is really
Yeah.
cool, because at that point it was just a little interest and
Yeah.
but it wasn't even like the same thing you're doing now. Now you're finding something, or you found something that is so, it's obviously lucrative to a sense, it's also helping you see a future that you didn't see before.
I think in the main goal, especially in like the new age entrepreneur, is freedom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily just financial freedom, but like time freedom. I mean,
Yeah.
you're still grinding and you're still working, but you choose, and you seem like you're a very habitual person. You wake up, you do your cardio, you get your mind right, and then you can respond to clients and start working on the new clients you're onboarding. And I think that's such a beautiful thing when you are able to genuinely work for yourself, and the only person or people you're responsible for are the people that you choose to be responsible for.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's
Yeah.
just incredible.
I think people get entrepreneurship wrong sometimes, and they think that it's going to like free up so much time, and they're gonna like, oh, I don't have to work a 9 to 5 anymore. It's gonna be great. But like, it's not that it's freeing up time just like verbatim. It's that it's freeing up your like concept of time and how you can
Totally.
use your time. And like for me, I worked a corporate job in like gym management for a while, and then in property management, and like I could have gone far with those things. Hold on, my dogs are coming in.
You're good.
I could have gone farther with those things and kept the benefits and everything, but it's not worth it if I'm still having to answer to someone else, and if
Totally.
I still have to be responsible for other people's shit that are
Yeah.
not like really adding value to me. And so yeah, I think that it really gives you the freedom of like choosing what to do with your time and being responsible over your time versus saying like, all right, I know I have this list of tasks to do and I have to do it by this point, and then I'll be done for the day and I don't have to
Yeah,
think about it. But
exactly.
it's
So
not
no,
like that.
it definitely doesn't seem like you're like more free. It's just like, it's just so cool because it's like when I was talking and I reached out to you, I also reached out to John Jewett. So I was like, man, like I have this job shift, like I have a month, like I kind of want to reinvent, like, do I want to coach people online primarily? Do I want to do body work? And I think the main thing he said that stuck out is that stick to what you know. Like, and I think that's so simple. He's like, look at your educational background. You clearly know a lot of things. Stick to what you know. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think a lot of people, if they take the time, can truly be good and have a high volume of clients like yourself with online coaching. But really, my niche, and I know this, is the bodywork stuff because
Yeah.
it's almost a
And
curse.
people
Like I
need it.
can see someone walking down the street and I can already tell what's wrong with them. I have someone walk in the clinic. I don't even have to look at the referral from the doctor. Like I can already tell what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
So
And that's
that's kind
really
of what,
powerful. Like the
yeah.
way to make money and like build a business is like that's one of like the major components of that is like having a solution for a really common problem.
Yeah.
And you like, yes, you could probably like learn more about coaching and do that and go for that, but like there would be a lot more resistance, right? Because you
Totally.
haven't already been doing it. You didn't get that education at some point. So now like you found that you figured out like I can solve this problem and not many people can because
Mhm.
there's so many bodybuilders out there, there's so many like even just gen pop that need help that
Yeah.
won't get it without what you're doing.
Totally. I mean, it was awesome in Illinois. When I first learned to dry needle, I literally just bought a ton of needles and I'd keep them in my gym bag. And like, someone would be like, "Hey, dude, my shoulder's killing me." I'd be like, "Yeah, give me $150 and I'll throw needles in you." And I'd have my alcohol swabs. We'd be at the gym. The owners like knew me, and I would always like let them know, like, "Hey, if you want me to needle you, like, I'm more than happy to do without charging as a courtesy for allowing me to just, in the open drop,
Yeah.
just drop a needle in somebody."
Yeah.
And so it was like, it was really cool. Like I would do that and it was super helpful. And again, like we want in this society, we want things immediately. And people would be like, "Oh my God, it almost doesn't feel like my arm because it
Yeah.
feels so loose and different."
Well, and
So,
go ahead.
so it's just, again, it was just really cool. And it's awesome to elicit such a huge response so quickly.
Hmm. Definitely. I think I'm sure there's probably a lot of practitioners and people who are like working in a clinic or working, through whatever they're working through as a practitioner or whatever, that kind of are afraid of doing things differently like you
Totally.
are. Like there's probably not a lot of people that would think about bringing their needles to a gym and just doing it out in the open, right? Like I'd never seen someone do that when I saw you do it to our friend in Seattle in April, but like it works. And
Yeah,
if someone's going to pay for it, then more people are going to pay for it. And so
exactly.
like I would say like I guess my question is how do you where does that confidence come from for you and just like doing shit differently?
I think it's just like my personality has always been a very like I'm an extroverted extrovert. Like I'm in your face, and I think for so long with having that personality, I was taught to stifle myself and taught like, "Hey, you need to chill out." And I finally reached a point like once I finished like my master's program, I think I was like 26. Um I had gotten the external validation of my talents as a therapist from the hand surgeons I worked for back in Illinois, and even the validation of the hand surgeon I have here that I'm talented. And I realized a lot of the times like patients come in and they ask to see me not because I'm just good at what I do, but because of my personality. And if I dim that, then I'm not being true to who I am and I'm not being myself.
Yeah.
I've always, beat to a different drum, and I've always been kind of a more rambunctious, different kid. And really, back in my college days, I played college softball. My coach never tried to stifle me. She always tried to not coddle, but foster that, that
Individuality.
extrovertedness and like channel that energy and be like, "Hey, like, you can focus, you can study, you can be good at things, and you're a special person. And I think like that was like literally like, okay, you're right. Like I just need to learn how to hone this in. Like, I mean, I will do whatever I need to get the job done. I mean, our hand surgeon will walk in the clinic and I'm literally on a table mowing someone's shoulder with all of my might, like standing on the table, and he just like looks at me and laughs. And it's just like, I'm just gonna do it. And I think a lot of that confidence too is from what bodybuilding's given to me. I'm confident in how I physically look, and I'm like, even on the stage, like I'm stoked to show it off, and it just translates into every other sector in my life.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of just like life advice, honestly, is like people are always going to be better at what they do when they're fully themselves and they're not
Totally.
afraid to be themselves. If that means
Totally.
you're introverted and that's okay, like then be introverted. But if
Yeah,
you're extroverted
120%.
and you're that way, then be that way because it's going to make you better and it's going to make it easier for you to do the things you're good at. Because if you're
Completely.
trying to hide a part of you while you're doing the thing you know you're good at and you're educated at and experienced with, then there's always going to be like a force field that you're just kind of behind and you're
Yeah,
not going to be able to do that best work.
completely. Yeah. Yeah, I don't, I really just wish I can't nail it specifically, but I know like anyone can go get their wrist stretched after breaking their wrist.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really try and I focus when I have someone come in that I immediately find common ground. And, I'm not just asking questions like, oh, how's your day been? Like, I'll try to notice something like if someone has a tattoo of something specific, I'll try to elude the conversation to that because really for an hour, I'm just trying to distract you while I'm causing pain. Like that's
Yeah.
literally my goal is to distract you while I wrench on your joints and get it to loosen
Yeah.
up. So, I mean, even while like needling's not comfortable, who likes having needles shoved in them and then I move them around? Like that's not comfortable. So, I mean, any of the bodybuilding people that I've worked on, you ask them, like, I'm constantly talking that whole time to them and asking them about them and getting to know them and establishing a rapport on,
Mm-hmm.
a certain level so that one, they feel comfortable with me, and two, they feel safe. Like that's my biggest thing is I never want to make anyone feel uncomfortable or like they're not safe.
Yeah, I think that that's so important, and you heal better when you feel safe. You heal better
Totally.
when you're not stressed and when you're not afraid. And like, yes, it can be a little fearful, like no matter what, going in and getting worked on, especially if you have an injury that's like preventing you from doing your daily life.
Yeah.
But if the practitioner or if the person like getting worked on can do anything to like bring that safety in more or like just reduce the anxiety about it, then they're gonna heal so much better.
Completely. I mean, the brain, it's so incredible how powerful our brain truly is. I have a few patients that after they've broken their wrists, they've developed called complex regional pain syndrome. So pretty much we have little receptors that tell us to feel pain when there's, a break or a soft tissue injury. And with CRPS, they like those pain receptors just go wild. So we literally pull it back and I have them, it's called graded motor imagery. We have them close their eyes and we literally talk them through like doing a wall push-up and have them like they obviously have to be invested in it, like they have to believe that like what they're doing, they can't just be like, oh, this is a crock of shit. But it's so powerful and how quickly I've seen people heal with just using like graded motor imagery. Like it's literally them sitting there closing their eyes and me talking to them. Like what a concept. Like how we
Yeah.
talk to ourselves and what we believe and think, we truly can manifest it. And it's crazy. I've seen people like, in a week's time be like, wow, I feel so much better. It's like you literally just thought about it. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is powerful. Visualization, like I think a lot of people think of that word and they think about like, oh, professional athlete before a game visualizes the shot, the game winning shot or whatever. But it's so much more than that. It can work
Totally.
for literally anything. I
Yeah.
think the people that deal with chronic stress or anxiety or anything like that, or chronic pain as well, it's not just because of the thing that happened to them that got them there, whether it was mental, emotional trauma or physical trauma. It's also their mind and where their mind is at in relation to that. I think when a client that I've had, when before she started working with me, she had a doctor and I think a coach even tell her like, you'll probably never deadlift again after she, did something to her back. And she's deadlifting easily over, like, 250
Hell yeah.
pounds
See?
easily,
Yeah,
correct.
absolutely.
And she's been doing that for almost the entire time we worked together, but it got there because we worked on her mindset. So
Yeah,
much of the time our minds are holding us back in what we're capable of. And if we have any amount of fear before we go into an exercise, or before we do something just like day-to-day life, like picking up groceries or a kid, then that fear is going to manifest in our bodies, and it's going to cause
completely.
tension, which causes that fight or flight response, which is releasing hormones that's allowing us to, or not allowing us to, heal.
Completely. 120% agree. And I mean, I think it's even the same with approaching prep. If you're like ready, like your coach says, all right, we're going to go into a prep, and you sit there and you're constantly like shitting on yourself, and you're like, there's no way I'm going to get there. Like, I can't do this. Then you're not, like, your prep isn't going to go smooth. I don't care if you have the best genetics, the best metabolism in the world. Like, you're not going to look as good as you could if you didn't have a good mindset. And I know, I think we all kind of get in that roller coaster during prep, but a lot of it, like, if you can talk yourself out of that, like, I forgot specifically what my friend said, but I think it was, stop talking yourself out of the table you belong to sit at. Like, and that
Yeah.
has been so big. Like, you should have a seat at that table. Like, don't take yourself out of it.
Yeah, because there's no reason to take yourself out of it. And if
No.
you think about the stressful thoughts we have, we're having them because I feel like it's almost like we feel like we don't deserve that thing that we want. And so
Yeah,
we're talking ourselves out of it to like feel less guilty or feel more realistic about what it is we want. So in turn, we then self sabotage. And,
totally.
sometimes that leads to cheating on your diet, or
Yeah,
sometimes it leads to, not getting your cardio done, or not getting this done, or just having a negative thought process and letting that manifest in whatever way it's going to manifest. And
totally.
we just your thought, your body will believe whatever you think. And so
Totally.
it's not that you just have to think positively all the time. It's that if there is a negative thought, what would happen if you met it with a different thought, and if we answered that thought with like a different question, like, why am I thinking this?
Yeah.
Does it make sense to think this? Because I look great. My coach just said I looked great.
Yeah,
My coach told
exactly.
me, my coach gave me the green light to prep. So why do I think that I shouldn't prep? Why do I
Yeah,
think that I can't do this?
totally.
So tell me about your recent injury and
Oh,
how you've
yeah.
been dealing with that. Because I
Oh,
know you recently got an injury,
yeah.
and
I am literally the crappiest patient in the world. I'm such a hypocrite. It's literally awful. So pretty much like about 4 to 5 weeks ago, I had like a glute and back day, like felt normal soreness, nothing crazy. And I woke up the next morning and it was like excruciating pain in my lower back, like nothing I had ever felt before. Occupational therapists will do activities of daily life or do therapy for that. So like dressing, bathing, toileting, all that stuff. And I'm literally sitting there like, I can't put my socks on. Like, oh my God, like I can barely shave my legs. Like I literally feel like a patient, like in a hospital.
yeah.
So, me being me, I'm like, oh, everything's fine. So I let it kind of sit for a couple days, realizing it wasn't getting better. I taught my girlfriend Morgan how to needle me. So I was like, hey, can you throw needles, in these areas? So I tried needling and it helped a little bit. Reached out to a few of my PT friends, tried a few things and things were just getting worse. So I finally folded. I went and saw a chiropractor so I could at least get some imaging done. And you could see there's a nice little compression fracture at like L3.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, pretty much when there's some sort of compression fracture, you can't load your spine for about 8 weeks. You have to wear a brace. You have to sit upright. Like you literally cannot do anything. So, I honestly, initially I was devastated because I know for me personally, my lower body has to develop a lot more, especially if we're going to stay in women's physique. So it kind of felt like a huge halt in progress. And then your bodybuilding career kind of flashes, before your eyes. You're like, am I done? Like, oh my God, like you do everything with your spine. Like for me, like maybe laying down will help for a little bit, but then you're uncomfortable. So you have to stand up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's really interesting. And it's really hard for me because like, it's not an area I normally treat. So it's hard for me because I usually like my shoulder tweaks. I know what to do. Like elbow, no problem. Even like mid back or like my neck, I can fix no problem. But this is something that I not only have had to reach out for help, but like things aren't making the pain better. And I'm really, really like, I don't like taking pain medication. So I'm the last person that you'll see popping Advil, or anything like that. So, pretty much my next step, just to confirm it's just like a compression fracture, I'm going to go get an MRI and say a little prayer. And, you know, I took last week off training. But I like, for me, that's something that kind of decompresses me after the day. So I need to get back to training at least what I can tolerate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just wild. Like, and I'm usually not on this side of the coin. So I think it's a good perspective for me and it'll make me a better therapist. But man, it's so difficult when you're chasing all these other girls. I had some girls that were like 40 pounds bigger than me on stage at nationals. Like, you need to try to catch up to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I was talking about this earlier today with Austin, even just like the feeling of always needing to be chasing as a
Yeah,
bodybuilder, like
totally.
chasing the bigger physique, the leaner physique, chasing, because everyone else is working too.
Yeah,
Everyone, like, not everyone else is getting injuries, not everyone else is taking time off, and that can be debilitating in your head to think, like, well, fuck, is it even worth it to try?
yeah,
And
totally.
in my mind, it always is, because like unless you truly don't love it and don't want to do it, it's you, the best thing you can do for your career is to just recover as hard as you fucking can.
Yeah,
As
totally.
recover as hard as you train and take it seriously. And I know you know this, but I think this is a good lesson for anyone who's gotten injured when they have bodybuilding goals, is like,
Yeah,
the choices are quit bodybuilding and just live injured, or like
yeah,
slowly get back to normal and that's your life, or do the shit that you need to do to heal. It
yeah,
might take 6 months, it might take weeks or months off from training, but if that's what it takes to get better so that you can get back to bodybuilding, then fucking do it.
then do it. And I
Yeah.
mean, like, I mean, the cliche, the stage will always be there. I mean, it's so true.
Mhm.
The stage is
Yeah,
always going to be there. Like,
exactly.
your, yeah, your back, I mean, your neck, your shoulders, like all of those big joints, like a small nagging injury. And I guess this is a PSA for me, for everyone else. Like, those small nagging injuries, if you don't take care of them when they're small, they're going to come back and bite you. Because I
Yeah, they
had
are.
lower back pain, you know, when I deadlifted here and there. You know, if I tried to full send too hard, I'd be sore for a day. But I never really addressed what was going on. And I
Yeah.
never addressed, like, I have a massive hip tilt, from my college softball days, and I never fixed that. So I know part of the reason I'm injured is because I didn't try to fix that, and I let things slide. And again, I feel like the biggest hypocrite doing so because of what I do. But like, take care of those small nagging injuries so that they don't
Mhm.
turn into something large.
Yeah, because the nagging injuries will get worse, but they'll manifest other issues, especially like if you're injured going into a prep, or if
Yeah,
you don't have something managed while you're going into a prep. Well, that's going to get worse because we actually need
totally.
food to recover also. And
Yep.
like, but you have to diet down, you have to bring food low in a prep eventually. And so
Mhm.
there's going to be a point where like you're firing on all cylinders, you're doing as much as you can to lose that body fat, but nothing's going to move because your fuel is going toward, or trying to go towards, fixing that or healing that, because
Yeah,
that's where fuel and water and like everything we give ourselves goes, is like the energy is going to the thing that needs to be healed, not
completely.
to fuel your training or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, just basic inflammatory markers when we are injured. From
Mm-hmm.
the initial injury, and I finally saw swelling go down this week, I lost like 6 pounds because my swelling went down. Like, if you're injured and you're swollen, like, and you're retaining inflammation, like, your weight isn't going to go down. You're going to look watery. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all those things matter. And then, like you said, like, resources are not being allocated to fat loss. They're being allocated to healing yourself because your body has a hierarchy, and your body first and foremost wants to heal before it
Yeah.
allows for any sort of fat loss.
Exactly. How do you see yourself going, like, becoming a better athlete now with this, in terms of like, do you really think you will not be as much of a hypocrite, and how do you
No, I
foresee
will
yourself
not.
going
I
through
will
this?
take the mobility training seriously.
Yeah.
When this injury happened, my girlfriend kind of looked at me and like raised her eyebrows because like for me, stretching, like I stretch sometimes at work, like when we have free time, like I am not post training stretching. Like I can
Mhm.
admit and I can call myself out. My warm ups are warm ups, like warm up sets before I do a movement. Like I am absolutely going to incorporate more stretching. Like I'm going to do a little bit more frequent dry needling on myself. I'm gonna do what I've done for other people on myself, pretty much.
Mhm. Take
And
your
I
own
think
advice.
in the long run, it'll give me um, more more size and shape. I think I just tried to combo those two. It'll give me more size and shape in my posing, which
Mhm.
again, I'm a smaller gal in women's physique. Like I'm gonna need that. So I think just moving forward, my plan of attack is at least doing some sort of mobility training at least 3 times a week. And I kind of have everyone needs different set of exercises. I hate seeing on Instagram some of these therapists that are posing, do this for shoulder pain or do this for back pain,
Mhm.
because it's so individual person to person. I could
For
have
sure.
3 patients in front of me with rotator cuff injuries, and I could give 3 completely different home exercise programs.
Yeah.
So I found the like 3, 4 exercises that are really good for my hips and my back. And then I'm going to implement those. And then obviously, like I said, the mobility work. So
Mhm.
doing the exercise I need to and doing the mobility work.
Yeah. And it's like you have to treat yourself like one of your own patients and just
Yeah, pretty
do
much
what
now.
you would do or do what
Yeah,
you would say for them to do. And I
yeah,
like what you said about how it's going to help your shape and your posing in the future when you can get back to like full training and growing and everything like that, because that's a really positive thing out of all of this, is that if you can look at this injury as something that will actually improve you as an athlete, then it's like it's so much more motivating to actually do all of this stuff for yourself
totally.
and get better.
And just appreciate, like, I don't think leg day, like, I'm not a typical girl. Like, my leg day is not my favorite day. It's hard and it sucks. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'd be going to the gym going, like, oh, fuck, I gotta do legs today. Like, meh, meh, meh. No, I'm like, literally, I'm gonna savor every single leg session that I get at this point
Mhm.
since I cannot load like I want to. Like, I just look at the hack squat in the distance and I'm like, I miss you.
Yeah,
So
you'll get better.
I have much more, I have much more appreciation for my lower body training now that I can't do it, of course.
Yeah. How have you? What has been like one of the biggest mental changes or hurdles that you've gone through? Not just, it doesn't have to just be with this injury, but like just in your last, like in your career as a bodybuilder, like something that has really helped you become who you are today.
I think honestly, the biggest thing for me has been the mental conditioning I've done as a partner and as a significant other with my girlfriend. I think accepting help for me has always been really hard because I was in a relationship where um, it was kind of like you have to do it yourself, you have to help yourself. And really now I've been able to lean on her as well as, my tribe around me. And I think mentally, not trying to take the world on by myself and knowing that there's people there for me, um, and just kind of like sticking to what I know and just worrying about executing, and not trying to focus on what I can control or what I can't control. Literally just sitting down and executing has been my biggest thing, especially for my prep last year. Like, I don't have to worry about if I've stalled on weight loss this week because that's Justin's job to worry. It's not my job. My job is literally just to execute. Hey, Morgan, the dishes, like I need you to do the dishes because I'm so tired I can barely stand up. And I think having a partner who's so intuitive to me, like she knows me so well, like I don't even have to say anything and she knows I need something or I need help or I just need a little bit more encouragement that like I'm in a safe space, like you are doing great and I'm proud of you. Like literally those 3 words for me mean everything. And accepting that, like that's another big thing that I've gone through this past year that has helped in my bodybuilding career is accepting that those statements are true and they're not just being said to me to be said.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's common for people who really love helping and providing and serving to forget the fact that like if we're with the right person, like the right partner also loves doing that for us because they love us.
Exactly.
And or even if it's like, like someone else in your life, like a friend or coworker, like they also want to help you because you're a really cool person because of the fact that you do that. And so
Yeah,
we forget the fact that like, no, I don't want any help, like, but why don't you want to accept them doing the same thing that you want to do for them?
completely. And
Because
that's me to a
they
T.
deserve that just as much as we do.
Exactly. So I think that's something personally that I've gotten a lot better at. And I think that's for me, that's why, like, just me living my life day to day is kind of my love letter to bodybuilding, because bodybuilding's given me so much of that, where it's so much personal growth. Obviously, you have the physical growth, but the personal growth of just becoming a better person, becoming a better, therapist, becoming a better significant other. Like, it's just the transformation that bodybuilding has given me. Um, there's nothing that beats what I've gotten from bodybuilding.
Yeah. And I love how this injury hasn't made you step away from bodybuilding or think that you shouldn't do it or it's a sign to not do it. I was thinking about that the other day that like there's a lot of like newer competitors who or people who haven't even competed yet, who are interested in the sport, who are so easily thrown off their path towards bodybuilding.
Yeah,
And I think to me that tells me that either A, they're just not as into it as they thought they were, or that as they say they are, or they don't understand that, or they haven't been taught that they can do it all. They
yeah,
can keep focusing on improving as a bodybuilder, but also heal an injury, or but also go on a gut protocol, or
yeah,
also work on their hormones or their personal life. Like you can go through a breakup and still go through a prep.
yeah,
Like
totally.
it sucks.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, if you let the stress get to you, it's not going to work very well, but you
Hmm.
can do whatever you want. And it's
Totally.
not like bodybuilding doesn't deserve your attention. If you're really into it and you really want to prove it to yourself, then fucking decide to do it.
Totally. And, you can, you don't have to go all in if you're a bodybuilder. I mean, preferably, and I guess that's kind of the person I am. Like, I'm going to go all in. But especially when you're dealing with life stressors, like, again, divorce, moving across the country, like all this stuff that I put myself through, bodybuilding gave me that routine. Like, no matter like what I was going to hear from the divorce attorney, I knew I was going to wake up, do 25 minutes of fasted cardio, go home and eat, and go lift at the gym. Like, I always knew that was going to happen, and that's what I focused on, and that's what got me through all of it. Was the stuff I couldn't control, I could control if I was going to go, get all my meals in, do my cardio, and, nail my lift. Like,
Yeah.
controlling those things for me is what got me through the really hard times in my life.
Yeah, because it's really a privilege that we get to do this. Like if you are in a
Totally.
place in your life where you have the finances and you have the interest and you have the body capability of doing bodybuilder things,
Yeah,
then that's a privilege. It's not like
totally.
this, it shouldn't be thought of as this extra thing that like, oh, I have to do.
Have to go do it. Yeah.
Nobody's fucking telling you to bodybuild. Like
No, no
nobody's
one's
forcing
telling
you.
you. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that a lot, and just people thinking like, "Oh, I have to put it on the back burner now because this happened." And sometimes you do, but most of the time you don't. Most of the
Yeah.
time you can probably just, like you said, look at it the opposite way and look at it as a way to help you
Yeah,
progress.
totally. Totally.
What are has there ever been a time where you felt like, I don't know if I can do this as a body?
Honestly, I mean, it never occurred to me to not bodybuild. I just thought, like, I did nationals in 2019, like one of my first years competing. And even then I was like, you know what? I belong up there, like, so maybe like after I got second call outs at nationals that year, I kind of like, I was like, oh, like maybe I'm not as great as I think I am. But it was never like, I don't think I can do this. It's just that, oh, I have to put my head down and, work so much more. So, after that, put my head down for a year and a half and grew, and then went back at it and then said, okay, not bad, but I can be better. Put my head down for 2 years at that point, grind, and then, okay, let's shoot for it. So I think, and that's kind of how I'm programmed. I never really think that I can't do something. It's just, okay, this is really hard. How am I going to approach this if I fail with it the first time, or if I don't do as well as I want to?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's it's easy for people to see so many people that look like they're winning all the time and everything's great, and then they see someone who's like good or okay and they're not winning and
Mhm.
think that it's just a lost cause. Like, well, why are you even doing this if you're not winning?
Totally. And you
Like
need a,
I've even had those thoughts about myself. Like, why am I even doing this if I'm not winning?
for
Like in
sure.
my previous seasons, and that's I think the like secret to bodybuilding and like being a good bodybuilder is that like if you just keep showing up and you believe in yourself and you know that you can get better, even if that getting better still isn't good enough,
Yeah,
then you're doing a good job. You're being a good bodybuilder, and because
for
it's
sure.
not as much about winning as it is about just progression and
Totally.
staying in it if you love to do it.
Yeah, something Justin told me a few weeks, pre-injury back. Him and I were just having you have your moments in off season. You're like, I just don't look good, or like this isn't going
Mm-hmm.
well. And of course, I'm so goal focused, so I want to think ahead. And he's like, Eleni, you probably won't win your pro debut. You might, but you probably won't. And what you need to do as a pro athlete is you need to learn how to lose and how to take those critiques and come back with them. And I think especially for you, like this is the best that I've ever seen you look. And I mean, I've followed you since probably like 2018, 2019. Like I've never seen you look the way you do. And I think that's because you consistently take your feedback and you put your head down and go, okay, like I'm going to take it on the chin and I'm going to work.
Yeah. Sometimes we need a wake up call in
Yeah.
like in our pursuit. A wake up call meaning like, all right, I've done things poorly or I've been led with the wrong values or the wrong person like
Yeah.
coach, and you need to just like swallow that and just decide like, all right, I can either keep doing things wrong and hope to get different results, and that's not going to happen, or I can truly just shift gears and
For sure.
be different because like they want different, and the only way for me to do that is by doing different things. I can't just do what I've always done.
Absolutely. Well, I hate to cut you off, but I have to go back and treat patients.
You're good. I'm so
So
glad that you
I'm
got
so glad we
to
finally did
take time
this.
for this. Yes.
Yeah.
And wishing you lots of luck. Hopefully by the time this is released, you're like feeling awesome and you're
Feeling
not
awesome.
like, yeah, you're all
Well,
back on the back squat.
you keep crushing your prep. I'm super proud of you and you look phenomenal. So keep doing
Thank
your
you.
thing.
All right.
All right.
Bye, girl.
I'll
See ya.
talk to you later. See ya.